Good evening, everybody. Good evening, and welcome to day 6 of the Dear Me Challenge. Thank you so much for being here. Whether this is your first time or you're a repeat visitor, I want to thank you so much for joining me here. Oh, I'm excited about today because, as you've seen in the caption, today is personal. This message that I want to share with you today is something that I have recently been able to experience for myself, and I'm excited about sharing it with you. And if you don't know, this challenge is in relations to my best-selling book, Dear Me, I See You. It's a collection, a collaboration of intimate letters from a woman's heart to the little girl within, written by me as a visionary and 4 other amazing authors. And as my friend and co-author said, this challenge is Dear Me 2.0. And I'll take that because we are talking about an identity shift. And whenever we can be bold and courageous enough to really focus on ourselves and have those moments with ourselves where we're having a declaration moment. And that's what Dear Me, I See You is. It's a declaration to the part of yourself that is ready for transformation, that part of yourself that you may have hidden, maybe not even consciously because of the things that you've endured. But when we talk about an identity shift, it's moving to the highest version of your authentic self. And that may sound like a mouthful, and it is, because it's scary sometimes to just change and to shift from what's familiar to the unknown, really. So I wanted to bring this challenge for the month of October on Monday and Wednesday to share different techniques, different stories with you as your life is beginning to shift. The seasons have changed, and for me, that's always a signal to me to do an assessment of where I am and where I'm going. And by doing that, it has helped me to be able to grow and shift in a way that is gentle to me in some ways, but in some ways it wakes me up. And so that's what we're going to be talking about here today. So if you haven't ordered your copy of the Dear Me, I See You anthology, you can pick up that copy at restoreherworth.com, and I'll send you an autograph copy. You may see me looking off here. I'm just watching my phone to make sure everything is working as it should. And so let's get going here. When my friend Kim said that this is Dear Me 2.0, I started to think about that. It's like, yeah, even when we were writing the book, we were still on our journey of, hey, Carolyn, thank you for coming in. We were still on that journey of transitioning. And some of us came to those points in our writing where we had to stop for a minute and take all in all the things that were coming up for us on this journey of Dear Me, I See You. The I See You is so powerful, and it's something that many of us may not have ever been told that we can do, is to see ourselves. We allowed our experiences in life, we allowed our perceived failures to hide us from who we really are. And the identity shift is about reconnecting with who we are at our core. And that means taking in all that you are, the good and the perceived not so good, and work through that process. And I've said all over this challenge is that sometimes we don't want to do that work because we don't believe that it shows up in other areas of our life. We don't think it shows up in our relationships or in our businesses or in how we relate to people. Hey, Carolyn, how we relate to other people. But I want to tell you that it really does. It affects and touches every part of our life, even the parts that we don't think is that important as far as relating to ourselves. So let's get going here. So let's see. Hold on. Okay, so on day 6, we are talking about you don't get to give up this time. You are worthy of finishing. These words came to me today as I was standing in my kitchen. And I'll tell you the truth, I have no problem with being transparent and vulnerable with you guys because I know it's going to help me grow. This morning, I was on the verge of not finishing this challenge. I woke up feeling kind of heavy and discouraged and just sad in my spirit. And as I started going through those emotions, I started to think about, does this even matter to anybody? The normal things that go through my heart and mind when I am on the verge of not finishing what I said. And I allowed those things to rule for a little bit. And then I started to try and look for different ways to encourage myself and pick myself up. And, I started listening to different speeches and sermons and different things. And I was determined not to quit, but it was so familiar to me because I've done it so many times where I'll commit to something and then I'll let those triggers hit me and I find myself stopping. But when I walked in the kitchen, those were the words that I heard God say to me. You don't get to quit. You don't get to give up this time. You are worthy of finishing. And you may think, what does feeling worthy have to do with finishing something? Well, let me tell you, whenever you commit to doing something for yourself and you don't finish it, and then you begin to unconsciously give yourself permission to continue that, and you set up this cycle in your life where you start, you don't finish, you start and don't finish. It becomes less and less time between you saying you're going to do it and you stopping it without realizing that you stopped it. And inside you feel like a failure. You feel like a failure. And over time, you don't even realize you're doing it. You're just in this motion. You're in this cycle. And this is not the first time that I have struggled with this. I remember many years ago when God spoke to my heart years ago and said, stop stopping, finish what you start. When you've dealt with different things in your life that help you to not see yourself as valuable or worthy, there are different things that you do that become a coping mechanism. It becomes the way that you survive. And so I had to begin to really pull back the layers of what as we talked about previously in this challenge, is to follow the breadcrumbs. Why was today different? Why was today important that I push through instead of allowing the triggers to stop me from finishing what I said? Because I've been doing the work, the Dear Me work, and I've been stretching myself, stretching my faith, stretching my belief, shaking off the different things that have held me in a cycle for a long time. And so when I woke up this morning and the triggers were there was a part of me that had to wrestle against what was normal in order for me to be here before you today. Because I learned along the way that I stopped finishing things because I didn't feel worthy. Let's just be honest. In those different areas where I struggled with to complete things, I didn't feel worthy. And then when you don't finish because you don't feel worthy, then you feel like a failure. Then it's hard for you to start again. And then along the way, you start feeling like, well, why don't things work for me? Oh, it must be the devil. No, it's not the devil sometimes. Sometimes it's you. Sometimes it's you. You stopping you. You not taking time to assess where is that coming from and why am I not completing things? So tonight I wanted to share some things with you. It's just a few little steps that have helped me to be able to get to the understanding that those were my coping mechanisms to give up because I didn't want to be disappointed. It was easier to give up on myself than to be disappointed because something didn't work the way I needed it to. A person didn't come through for me like I needed them to. And so I gave up on the inside, and then it shows up in my life, whether it's business, whether it's writing, whether it's teaching, whatever that may be, it shows up because when you don't feel worthy, it attaches to everything. When you don't want to be disappointed, so you create these coping mechanisms for yourself, it shows up in everything. And I want to tell you that is detrimental to your confidence, is detrimental to you stepping forward in boldness and confidence, is detrimental to you seeing excuse me, to you seeing yourself for who you have been created to be. Walking away, before I get into those steps, walking away from a 19-and-a-half-year marriage, I saw how this lack of completion elevated in my life. It elevated because having a marriage that doesn't work out the way you thought it would is a big downfall. So I picked those coping mechanisms up again. I don't think they ever left, but I picked them up and they intensified because I didn't want to be disappointed. How many times have you been so gung-ho about doing something, to start the business, to write the book, to talk to that person, to create this program, to teach these people, to lose weight? Let's just be honest. Let's just look at the simple things. To lose weight, and somewhere inside, those triggers happen. And you look around and it's 3 months, 6 months from now, and you have not done what you said. It doesn't feel good, right? The first thing we want to do sometimes is blame somebody. Blame somebody, or even we'll say, well, maybe God didn't want me to do that, or maybe God didn't want me to have that. And in some cases, that may be true. But I want to point you back to you, because many times it's you. It's not anybody else. It's you. It's what's inside of you that's told you and giving you the permission to say, you don't have to finish. It's easier to just fall back instead of being disappointed. And we know that that's taking away our confidence. When we take away our confidence, we take away our voice, right? All right. So I know that just like me, you don't want to keep doing that in your life. So let's talk about the first way that it can help you to progress away from not finishing and begin to finish. First, we're going to identify the area of your life where you have the greatest struggle of completion. Now, I talked about weight loss because all of us know about wanting to lose weight. That requires us to do some things, right? That changes our eating. We exercise. We have to say no to some things. We have to drink some more water. We have to do something that we're not used to doing in order to accomplish that goal. So you're going to identify that area in your life where you have the greatest struggle of finishing. Because until you can identify something, you really don't know where you stand. That's a part of the assessment. When you identify it, you're putting light on it. I know for myself, for years, I didn't identify it. I called it everything else. Insecurities. I don't have what it takes to do this or to do that. Oh, it's easier for everybody else to do this than it is for me. But those are lies that we give to ourselves instead of saying, well, I don't want to be disappointed if the scale doesn't line up with what I say. I don't want to be disappointed if I go for this job and they tell me no. I don't want to be disappointed if I present this idea to whomever and they say no. Because when you can identify something, you can change it. As long as you don't see it as an issue, you will remain the same. And it's the same way with this. It's just like a runner. If they don't run and practice and work on their endurance, when they see everybody going past them and they tell themselves, because they've learned how to give up, they tell themselves, oh, I'm not fast enough. They're better than me. I can't do this. It's because you don't feel worthy of finishing. But there is power in finishing. But until you identify what the real reason is, you're going to remain the same. You're going to always sit back and blame life, blame people, become a victim to the circumstance of not getting what you desire and what you want, because you have not overcome the fact that you don't feel worthy. You don't feel worthy. You don't feel good enough. You beat yourself up. You allow those old mindsets to come back to tell you that it's not even worth doing it. So you decide not to do it. Number two, you're going to define the emotion and the thought. I talked about that just for a second right there. You're going to identify, define what emotion is coming up for you. What thought is coming up for you? This morning when I was dealing with my old triggers, I was hearing the thought, nobody's listening to you. You've been doing this challenge for 5 days. Nobody is listening to you. Nobody wants to hear what you have to say. That has been a lifetime struggle of my inner conversations. Nobody is listening to you. Nobody is coming. Nobody wants to hear what you're having to say. But today I decided that I was going to question those thoughts, because those thoughts also made me feel unworthy. They made me want to hide. They tell me that I'm not worthy to be seen. So today I began to question myself and say, is that really true? And am I doing it just so people can come? I know what I'm called to do. I know the message that's in me. I know who I'm supposed to help, and I know who I'm supposed to serve. So is that really true that nobody's listening to me? Is it really true that nobody wants to hear what I'm saying? So what are the emotions? What's coming up for you when you feel yourself backing off, shutting down, and not wanting to finish what your assignment is, what you're meant to do, what you are here to do, what you started to do, what you committed to yourself? What thought, what emotion is coming up for you? You have to tag it right where it is, because again, otherwise you're going to blame other people, other things. You're going to blame the devil, and really it's something on the inside of you that you really have to get in control and question, is that true? But again, if you're not ready to own those emotions, own those thoughts, and capture that and question it, then you're going to remain the same. And you're going to keep feeling like you've been feeling. You're not going to be able to see yourself the way you're meant to see yourself, because you have those things that are blocking you from being able to see your true self. All right. So we've identified it. We're going to define the emotion and the thought. And then we're going to define where you learned. When did you learn this coping method? If I'm honest with myself, I learned this method even in my childhood, but it doesn't really become real to you until you get older. You start growing and coming into yourself. You begin to try different things. You begin to do different things. You begin to think about, oh, I want to create this. I want to start this business. I want to write these books. I want to teach people how to write these books. I want to help people do this. I want to teach them how to do this. And then those old things that you learned to do to survive as a child, that's when they become prevalent to you. They really begin to step forward. So when we talked about those breadcrumbs, you have to begin to peel back the layers, follow the breadcrumbs back to where this began. Because when you do that, then you begin to deal with some other things that are coming up. Let me turn this down. You begin to deal with some other things that are coming up, because you know you didn't just arrive here. Yes, ma'am. You didn't just arrive here in this moment and say that I'm going to learn how to protect my heart by not finishing what I said I was going to finish. This happened a long time ago. There are different experiences in our life that we have to figure out how to survive on the inside. We have to figure out how to compartmentalize those things that we've gone through, those disappointments, the abandonment, the rejection, the hurt, the things that, if you've gone through some type of abuse, different types of abuse, you learn how to compartmentalize your emotions. You learn how to not say certain things. You learn how to not do certain things because it brought this action onto you or brought these words onto you. So you shut down on the inside, and over time, that part of yourself is the part you can't see. So when we're talking about dear me, I see you, that's the part of us that we're going for. We're going for the part of us that learn to survive in order to live this life and to function. But when you learn that you don't have to use those things to cope anymore, and then you begin to create new strategies for yourself in order for you to not only survive, but to thrive. You begin to speak a different way to yourself. You begin to change your thoughts as you're questioning those thoughts and asking yourself, is that really true? Yeah, I went through that. That happened. Those are the facts. But is that really the truth? Am I really, am I really not worthy? Yeah, that happened. But does that really define me, who I am now? Because we have to begin to question what we hear, question those negative emotions that rise up, because until you do, you will never finish the things that you're wanting to finish in your life. And this is not the last thing, but it's the last thing I'm going to talk to you about today. Take ownership and create a strategy for success. When I heard those words in the kitchen this morning, I instantly received them, because if you really know me, you know that those words disrupted everything that was going on with me this morning. And God's love became more powerful than those negative thoughts and those coping mechanisms and those triggers, because I've been doing the work to overcome it. I received those words as an alarm to myself that, yes, I don't want to quit anymore. If I'm the only person in the room, I'm going to follow through on my assignment, because sometimes it is not even about the finish line per se, but it's about not quitting in the process. There are times when I've done things like this that by the third or fourth day, I have quit, because everything that I'm seeing and everything that I'm hearing is telling me that the way that I feel is true and that it's okay for me to give up. So when you take ownership of all of this stuff that I'm talking to you about, you create a strategy for success. What are you going to do when those old triggers start coming up on the inside of you? When you know you have committed to finishing, you've done the work, you've studied, you put out whatever you need to put out to draw people in, to say you're going to do this. What are you going to do when they start rising up again? Because you can't use the same techniques in order to overcome this negative cycle in your life. You have to create a plan for yourself. What is that plan for you? When I heard those words this morning, I went to work. I started writing down what I was hearing. I started writing down what I was feeling. I started asking myself, how does that make me feel when I don't finish? I feel like a fraud. I feel like a failure. And do I want to feel that way anymore? No, I don't. No, I don't. I'm shifting my identity. I'm walking in my purpose. I'm doing my assignment. I'm doing what I know God has called me to do. Take ownership. Amen. Amen. I have given up on myself too many times because those things make me feel insecure. And I didn't want to do that anymore today. I am talking to you guys all this month about an identity shift. Why wouldn't I be tested on that? It has happened before. Why wouldn't I have a struggle with it in the middle of the month? Because it's happened before. But shifting your identity, becoming the higher version of yourself, it is a journey, and you're going to have to push. And in order to change the trajectory of your life, you're going to have to change your strategy, change what you allow to speak to you. Those old things, those old emotions that allowed you to be able to survive before, they have to be put in their place. They're no longer the priority in this journey of shifting your identity and becoming the best version of yourself, the most authentic version of yourself. Because when you complete it, then you can begin the cycle of continuing to complete what you start. And instead of you having the cycle where unconsciously you give yourself permission to not finish, not complete it, not go through with it because you don't want to risk being disappointed. You don't want to risk being rejected. When you decide that this time I'm going forward, you'll change the cycle in your life where now I'm finishing. Even if it's a struggle, I'm going to finish. Even if there's nobody in the room, I'm going to finish. And God sent Carolyn here today to be in the room with me. So what if I didn't push forward to finish? What would she have missed that God had for her out of my mouth today? If I didn't push forward and somebody came looking for day 6 of this message and something that I needed to speak is what they needed, they would miss out on it. Because finishing is not only for you, it's for somebody else that's aligned with you. When I'm teaching my daughter about honoring her word to herself, she has to see me honoring my word to myself. That means I'm breaking generational chains in my life. We're setting a new standard. What new standard do you want to set for you so you can begin to see yourself? Dear me, I see you finishing. Dear me, I'm so proud of you and I see you. You're very courageous. We have to begin to make a shift by creating new strategies for ourselves every day to overcome those cycles that we have identified as a negative cycle in our life so that we can begin to thrive and live our most authentic self. All right? So even if you are watching this on the replay, put hashtag replay in the comments so that I can come and say hello to you. Thank you, Carolyn. I appreciate you so, so much. Thank you for being here. If you're watching this on the replay, hashtag replay in the comments so I can come back and say hello to you. And thank you so much for being here. If you have questions, if you have comments, leave them in the comments. I'm still going to see them and I will still acknowledge you, because just because you aren't here for the live, your word, your message, your comment, it still matters to me. All right. So join me next Monday on day 7 as we continue. Love it. Thank you. Thank you so much. As we continue this journey of Dear Me, I See You, as my friend said, 2.0, we are shifting our identity and becoming our most authentic self. We are embracing what we need to embrace so that we can evolve and then we can excel one step at a time. All right. So until then, thank you so much for being here. I'm Lynette M. Bradshaw. I hope this message has been encouraging, inspiring, and you learned something today that you didn't know before, or it changed your perspective. All right. I'll see you Monday at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time.